Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the Schwa Mill. This is your American English pronunciation review show where we take a look at two audio files that you guys have sent to us. We try to give you the best feedback that we can. And to guide you into this journey in pronunciation, there is me. Hi, my name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the four keys to a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. We've got two more files for you today on this Friday. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you all have a good weekend. Let us take a look at our first file and see what sort of feedback we can give.
Treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to do something what you are intended to do. And I would say,
All right, let's play that one more time.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to do something what you are intended to do. And I would say,
Okay, one thing I really like about this clip, thank you for sending it. Thanks to everyone who's sending it, by the way. It's hard to do a review show if you're nothing to review, so I appreciate everyone sending us files. So I like the pitch movement across different thought groups. We talk about this a lot, but when you change a thought group in English, so again, your thought group is like this group of words that you say before your next group of words. And in general, one of the things we're going to see with American English is that when you change the thought group, you got to change the pitch. Change the thought group, change the pitch. Change the thought group, change the pitch. And I think that's happening very well here.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to do something what you are intended to do. And I would say,
Yep. So I really like that movement there. Hello to Emmanuel checking in with us. So I like that movement. I think it sounds very natural. Like it a lot. Um, Let us continue looking at some other things here.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to do something what you are intended to do. And I would say,
No, so this makes me think. So, by the way, I do want to just give a quick shout out to our sponsor for the stream, which is the Magnet Lab, um, which is our small group coaching program. And one of the things that happens is there's people send us video clips, kind of like what's happening here. So this is kind of a great model. And then we just talk about how to become more effective communicators. So if you're finding this sort of feedback helpful, you might want to consider that program. Well, one of the things from a presentation standpoint, I would ask you to kind of consider if you, I don't know how often you're making videos or if video is something that interests you, is I would really encourage you to watch where your eyes are looking because you're not looking at the lens, you're looking down. And so we're not really seeing you, you're not really addressing us.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to.
Yes, you can kind of see that eye contact there. In addition to that, there's a couple places where I think our placement is going a bit high. So let's identify what some of those words are.
Treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing
First of all, I'm here on like some L sounds. You can hear it for instance, yourself, also on the word love. So when we talk about placement refers to, where are you projecting sound from? Different languages project sound from different places, even if the sound is similar. So for instance, like an E sound in American English is projected low, whereas an E sound in a lot of other languages is projected high. So it's the difference between doing like an E versus like an E. American English in general is going to opt for that lower one. Okay. I'm seeing that with our L sounds, our placement tends to go high. So like for your yourself and then love. See if you can hear that as well. And we'll talk about some things to do about that.
treat yourself like someone you love. And
So like treat yourself as someone you love versus like treat yourself as someone you love. So like a lot of times with L sounds, what we see is that L's can go in different positions. American English uses a lot of what's called a dark L. So instead of expecting L sounds in American English to sound like la, they often instead sound something more like oh, oh. And you may be like, Jeff doesn't even sound like an L sound at all. But again, let's not approach it from our first language context. Let's approach it from what's used, in the language that we're studying. In this case, the dark L sound in American English. So like yourself. So if you could do this like progression like L, cell, self, that kind of 5-step progression where it's just the vowel, then adding the dark L, then or adding the S, cell, and then the full word, self, yourself, L, cell, yourself, L, cell, yourself, things like that. Okay, that's the first thing to take a look at there. In addition to yourself, again, we had love, because it sounds like we're kind of saying like love,
Treat yourself like someone you love, and
love versus love. Okay, so again, same sort of ideas like la, love, uh, la, love. With this dark L sound, again, some tips here. I'm taking the tip of my tongue and I'm pressing it down against the bottom of my mouth. It's like la versus l. Okay. So let me find maybe one final thing to talk about for this clip.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he's mentioning there is that you are enough to do something what you are intended.
Yeah, you can hear the placement going high also on where like for instance like enough versus like enough or enough. Can't have two schwa sounds if you want. Just that enough. What we see a lot is that when people have a higher placement, that schwa sound very often becomes an ah sound. So again, it's not ina as much as it's ena. So watching out for that. And I want to finally look at the word another.
Treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he is
Another. It's our th sound is almost becoming a like a fast D flap T sound. There's a lot of friction going on. The th sound is very light in American English. It's soft. It's weak. You may have learned to pronounce the th by putting your tongue between your teeth, like doing like a the or the sound. And that's not necessarily the most natural way to do a th. I'd really recommend just very light contact with your top tooth or your bottom tooth, whichever one. And the goal is to get like a or it's very light and the air needs to move. It's called a fricative because the air keeps going. It's not called a stop. You don't block the breath. So for another, see how weak my th sound is. Another.
treat yourself like someone you love. And another thing he is
Like another thing versus another thing. Some of this also too could be because of once again a higher placement. Another also has a schwa sound, and once again we're seeing that placement go pretty high on that n sound. So like a na versus a n. So continue watching out for schwa sounds. Continue watching out for that um n plus schwa combination because it seems like a place where we're running into some placement things consistently. All right. Thank you so much for sending that audio file. And again, if you found that sort of feedback helpful, we do that feedback every day, multiple times a day in our small group coaching program called the Magnet Lab. Starting next week, we're adding some times to it. So 9 to 9:30 a.m. New York, 11 to 11:30 a.m. New York, and 8:30 to 9 p.m. New York. And the best part is members can come to every single one of those classes if they are able to. Other time zones can be a thing. But this is very similar sorts of feedback we give. We talk about some other things to help you become more effective communicators as well. And one huge advantage of the program is that these are things that don't just carry over to English. You're going to become a more effective speaker in any language that you speak, including your first language. So if you want to become a more effective communicator, speaker in conversations, at home when you're talking with your family, on calls, on times where you need to make video, when you need to record your voice, when you need to give presentations, when you lead meetings, this program really might be the opportunity that takes you to your next level that you desire. All right, let's take a look at our final clip for today. Thanks again to everyone who's been sending files. I greatly appreciate it. Here's our next one.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
Okay, I'll play it one more time.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
You know, in hearing the way that you're talking about this, I'm going to recommend if you look for like someone in the shadow, if this is similar to the type of talking you would like to do, there's a podcast by a marketer, but he talks about many things beyond marketing. called akimbo. His name's Seth Godin. So Seth Godin akimbo. If you look this up, the way you're delivering this is very, very similar to how he delivers things. Okay, so I think that could work really well. If that's something that is of interest, he often opens his podcast with the type of situation, kind of like what you're talking about here. So it may give you some ideas of things to do with your voice. Beyond that, let's play again.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
Okay. Again, this is similar to the first clip in that I like the pitch movement among thought groups. So we're changing thought groups, and then when we're changing the thought group, we're changing the pitch level. I'll try to give an example of that.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley.
It's like there's a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley. So you could it's like you hear that drop. So again, when you change thought group, change the pitch level. I think that's working really well here. Some other things that are standing out to me.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem.
A couple of places where we're cutting into our vowels a little bit. So again, we have vowels and consonants, right? Different languages place different emphasis on them. What we find with American English is the emphasis is placed on vowels. It's not placed on consonants. What I'm hearing in some sections of this, though, is I'm hearing more emphasis being placed on the consonant sound instead of on the vowel sound. I'd like to try to give more space to the vowel.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem.
So words, for instance, like dilemma, which, by the way, again, we see that dark L appearing, just like we mentioned earlier. So using more of a dark L sound might open up that vowel. It's like the la versus the lem. Do you see how much more space I'm able to give my vowel? Okay. Dilemma, also holding that schwa sound at the end. Dilemma. We see this also on the word like often called. It's like that dark L. All called versus called. And even like, for instance, like the word problem. It's like problem. So giving more space to our vowel sounds is going to be really key.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
So that's something to be considering there with those dark L's. I'm seeing a lot of these words that have L sounds near them or in them. Those are some places where our breath's getting cut off a little bit. Let's talk really quick about stress. So stressed words, the way to show stress in American English, American English is stress time, so stress is really important. The way we show that is just by slightly raising the pitch compared to the syllable before it. It's like this is this. This is this. I'm stressing the last this. You can hear it go down. This. So that is enough for your listener to hear stress. It doesn't. We don't have to go crazy. We don't do like this. That would be way too much. I feel like when I'm listening to this, we're getting some pretty heavy stresses.
There's a classic ethical dilemma.
Like that. There's a classic ethical dilemma versus there's a classic ethical dilemma. So we don't have to go as heavy on our stress syllables. So that's something I would encourage us to watch out for. Let's maybe find one other thing to identify.
There's a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
So when I was listening to this file originally, I had a little bit of trouble with the very last part here with the representative situation. And I think the reason for it is, while I mentioned that I like the pitch movement across thought groups, like going high, going low, there's clear movement. Inside of thought groups, we also need to make sure we have some pitch movement going on too. And I think when I'm hearing representative, things are kind of jumbling together because there's not a lot of contrast between the syllables. One way you can add contrast is by increasing the amount of pitches used across syllables.
There's a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. You are presented with a situation.
Like representative situation. Representative. Representative situation. representative. So trying to make sure you have enough pitch movement there. The stress is on zent, represent. So your pitch movement is probably going to be something like the, the. So that second syllable is really going to drop, and then that third syllable rises, and then everything else drops again. Representative, and then situation again, dropping as well. Situation, representative situation, representative situation, something like that. Adding more pitch contrast there would be very helpful. Another element of contrast you could add to help with clarity too would be firmness, softness. So maybe starting firm and then going softer. So like representative, representative. So notice that we start firmer, rep, then we get softer, softer. Representative, representative situation.
There is a classic ethical dilemma, often called the trolley problem. The representative situation.
Okay, some things to consider there. Thanks to everyone who sent us audio files and clips. Obviously, it's not necessary, but I hope you're finding the feedback helpful. You know, it takes a lot of vulnerability to put yourself out there. So I appreciate everyone who sent audio files. We'll be back with more Schwa Mill next week. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. There's a lot of pronunciation resources out there. So the fact that you're here doing some pronunciation with me on a Friday, no less, is greatly appreciated. I will see you all later. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, have a good afternoon, and of course, have a good weekend too. We'll see you next week with another edition of the Schwa Mill. Take care, guys.